Part I. The execution of the reactive man. You were not born weak. You were trained to be reactive. There is a difference. From childhood, they rewarded your emotion. They called it honesty. They called it vulnerability. They called it being real. But what they were really doing was mapping you. Every time you flinched, they learned your pride. Every time you argued, they learned your ego. Every time you chased, they learned your fear. Every time you explained yourself, they learned your insecurity. And now, you call those reactions personality. They are not personality. They are pressure points. Your emotions are not feelings. They are handles. Invisible handles attached to your identity. And every time someone wants control over you, they don't fight your strength. They pull a handle. Anger, jealousy, validation, loneliness, fear of disrespect. Pull, and you move. That is not power. That is remote control. Most men are not defeated by stronger men. They are defeated by their own nervous system. You think your anger makes you dangerous? No. It makes you predictable. You think your jealousy proves you care? No. It proves you can be manipulated. You think your need to explain yourself is maturity? No. It is an advertisement. It says, here is how to make me react. Today we do something most men will never have the discipline to do. We execute the reactive version of you. Not through suppression. Not through pretending. Not through becoming numb. Through control. Because emotionless does not mean dead. It means sovereign. It means nothing inside you moves without your permission. And that kind of man cannot be steered. The lie of emotional authenticity. You were told, feel your feelings. Express your truth. Let it out. But no one told you this. The world does not reward emotional honesty. It studies it. People don't connect with your emotion. They measure it. They watch what makes you defensive. They watch what makes you overtalk. They watch what makes you insecure. They watch what makes you chase. And once they know, they never need to overpower you. They only need to provoke you. This is what most men never understand. You are not controlled by force. You are controlled by activation. Trigger the ego. Trigger the fear. Trigger the pride. And the man destroys himself. The Italian political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli understood something men still refuse to accept. Men are ruled more by fear and desire than by reason. So whoever can move your fear, whoever can stimulate your desire, can move you. That is why emotional control is not self-help. It is warfare. The first discipline separation. Right now, your emotions feel like you. I am angry. I am hurt. I am anxious. That language is weakness. Not because emotion is weakness, but because identification is. You are not angry. Anger is visiting you. You are not jealous. Jealousy is passing through. You are not anxious. Anxiety is a signal. Signals are useful. Leaders do not obey signals. They interpret them. Picture your mind as a throne room. Emotions enter like messengers. Some arrive loud. Some arrive dramatic. Some arrive seductive. But none of them sit on the throne. You do. And kings do not take orders from messengers. They question them. Why are you here? Who benefits if I obey you? What happens if I do nothing? That pause, that space between feeling and action, is where power is born. Most men never experience that space. They go from stimulus to reaction in less than a second, and that second is where they lose leverage. From today forward, you stretch that second. When insulted, pause. When tempted, pause. When challenged, pause. When praised, pause. Because praise is also a leash. Compliments are ropes made of silk. Men desperate for validation are led by flattery. You will not be. The calm that terrifies. You want to know what unsettles people? Not aggression. Not loud dominance. Stillness. Stillness under pressure. When someone tries to provoke you, and nothing changes in your face. They feel it. When someone expects an argument and receives silence, they feel it. When someone tries to rush you, and you slow down instead, they feel it. Most men speed up when emotional. You will slow down. Slower speech, longer eye contact, delayed responses, measured tone. The man who controls tempo controls outcome, and tempo is destroyed by emotion. You do not need to intimidate. You need to be unreadable, because predictability is captivity. The kill switch. Here is the simplest discipline you will ever learn. Delay. 3 seconds of silence can protect 3 years of reputation. When heat rises in your chest, I do nothing. Freeze the face. Relax the jaw. Breathe through the nose. Let the wave rise. Do not attach a story to it. Do not rehearse revenge. Do not compose speeches. Do not justify yourself in your head. Observe. Emotion without narrative dies quickly. Emotion fed by story becomes identity, and identity becomes habit. The world expects you to speak from heat. That is why silence is dominance. When you don't react, others begin to unravel. They over-explain. They contradict themselves. They reveal insecurity. They expose intent. And you see clearly, because your vision is not shaking. Pain without performance. Most men perform pain. They vent. They broadcast. They seek witnesses. Real strength is quieter. Masculine stoicism is not about pretending nothing hurts. It is about not leaking it. Life will disrespect you, disappoint you, replace you, betray you, delay you. That is not tragedy. That is pressure. Pressure does not destroy steel. It reveals weakness in metal. So when something hurts, you do not dramatize. You absorb. You convert. You let the pain sharpen you instead of expose you. Because the man who broadcasts his wounds teaches others where to aim. The man who carries pain silently becomes unreadable. And unreadable men are dangerous. The strategic replacement. Emotion cannot simply be killed. It must be replaced. With strategy. When anger hits, ask, what outcome do I want? When jealousy hits, ask, what standard did I neglect? When anxiety hits, ask, what process do I control? When insulted, ask, is this worth my energy? Or is silence more lethal? Ego fights battles. Strategy chooses wars. Most conflicts are ego battles disguised as principles. You will not fight for ego anymore. You will move for advantage. Sometimes the strongest move is withdrawal. Sometimes the most dominant response is indifference. Sometimes the real victory is exit. And you will become comfortable with leaving. Because the man who can walk away calmly cannot be owned. The shift. At first, people will test you harder. They want the old version back. The reactive one. The emotional one. The explain yourself one. The chase for clarity one. They will poke. They will guilt. They will provoke. They will tempt. And you will not move. That is when the shift happens. Some will respect you more. Others will resent you. Both are proof you are changing. Because emotional men are easy to keep. Controlled men are expensive. Part 2. The architect of control. The world does not reward the strongest man. It rewards the most calculated one. Strength without strategy is noise. Emotion without discipline is self-sabotage. And intelligence without control is chaos. If you want to become dangerous, you must understand something most men never grasp. Power is not in expression. Power is in restraint. The man who says everything he feels has no leverage. The man who reveals everything he thinks has no mystery. The man who reacts to everything he sees has no authority. You are not here to express yourself. You are here to master yourself. And mastery begins with understanding the battlefield you're standing on. The invisible battlefield. Every interaction is a test. Not a loud one. A subtle one. Who reacts first? Who explains more? Who seeks approval? Who breaks silence? Who adjusts posture? Who laughs too quickly? Who fills the space? Most men don't notice this game, but it's always happening. And the one who maintains composure wins it. Not because he dominates, but because he does not surrender position. You see, social control is not about overpowering others. It is about not giving yourself away. The moment someone knows what triggers you, they own part of you. The moment someone knows what you crave, they can dangle it. The moment someone knows what scares you, they can threaten it. So you begin with observation. You speak less. You watch more. You study tone, facial shifts, timing, energy changes. You become a reader of patterns. Because predictable men are managed. Unpredictable men are respected. Strategic warmth, the illusion of openness. Here's where it becomes advanced. You do not become cold. You do not become robotic. You do not become emotionally distant. That is amateur control. Instead, you become strategically warm. You smile. You listen. You engage. You ask questions. But you reveal nothing you cannot afford to lose. You let others feel heard. But you do not expose your core. You allow them to believe you are open, while remaining internally sovereign. This is where the philosophy of Niccolo Machiavelli becomes dangerous in the hands of a disciplined man. He wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But he also warned rulers to appear merciful, faithful, humane. Appearance shapes perception. Perception shapes reality. You can be kind without being weak. You can be calm without being passive. You can be polite without surrendering authority. And when your external energy is warm, but your internal state is unshakable, people cannot categorize you. And what they cannot categorize, they approach carefully. The power of scarcity. There is one trait that separates high-value men from average ones. Scarcity. You do not overshare your time. You do not over-explain your decisions. You do not overextend your availability. Attention is currency. If you give it freely, it loses value. Most men chase. They text too quickly. They respond instantly. They volunteer explanations. They argue to be understood. That is abundance of effort. Abundance of effort signals low leverage. The controlled man moves differently. He responds when it serves him. He speaks when it matters. He disappears when necessary. Silence creates gravity. Distance creates value. And the ability to walk away calmly creates fear of loss. Not loud fear. Subtle fear. The kind that makes others adjust their behavior around you. You never announce scarcity. You embody it. Emotional economy. You have a limited emotional budget each day. Most men spend it on things that don't matter. Arguments. Online debates. Proving points. Defending ego. Chasing validation. By noon, they are drained. The dangerous man protects his emotional capital. He does not argue with fools. He does not defend himself to skeptics. He does not try to convert critics. He lets misunderstanding exist. Because clarity is earned, not begged for. And the more you try to be understood, the smaller you appear. Energy is power. Guard it like territory. The exit advantage. Here is a rule most men are terrified of. You must be willing to lose anything. The man who is afraid to lose the relationship loses authority. The man afraid to lose the job loses negotiation power. The man afraid to lose approval becomes a performer. Attachment creates desperation. Desperation creates weakness. Detachment creates leverage. This does not mean you do not care. It means your identity does not collapse if something leaves. You build yourself so strong internally that walking away does not shatter you. It sharpens you. And when others sense that you are not dependent on them, their behavior changes. Respect increases. Tests decrease. Manipulation fades. Because they cannot threaten what you are prepared to release. Long game thinking. Most men think in moments. The controlled man thinks in years. An insult today? Irrelevant. A delay in success? Irrelevant. A temporary rejection? Irrelevant. If you think long enough ahead, most emotional reactions become childish. You stop fighting for immediate satisfaction. You start positioning for eventual dominance. You stop responding to every slight. You choose battles that compound. Short-term ego satisfaction destroys long-term positioning. So you begin asking different questions. Not, how do I win this argument? But, how does this affect my trajectory? Not, how do I prove myself? But, is this person even qualified to judge me? You detach from the small. You build for the massive. And patience becomes a weapon. The unreadable presence. When you walk into a room, your goal is not to impress. It is to be stable. When tension rises, you do not mirror it. You lower it. When someone raises their voice, you soften yours. When someone becomes aggressive, you become composed. People unconsciously calibrate to the strongest nervous system in the room. If yours is steady, you control atmosphere. This is psychological dominance. Not loud, not performative, but undeniable. And over time, people will describe you with words like grounded, hard to read, intense, calm under pressure, different. They won't know exactly why, but they will feel it. The final discipline of this phase. You do not announce transformation. You do not post about it. You do not explain it. You simply move differently. Let them wonder. Let them adjust. Let them realize something changed. And when they test you, because they will, you pass silently. Because the reactive man is gone. The strategic one is awake. Part 3. The man who cannot be moved. Most men think they want influence. What they really want is approval. They want status without sacrifice, respect without detachment, power without isolation. That combination does not exist. If you cannot stand alone internally, you will always be adjustable externally. And adjustable men are shaped by whoever applies pressure. The final evolution is this. You become unmovable, not emotionally numb, not cold, unmovable. The psychology of respect. Respect is not granted because you are nice. Respect is not granted because you explain yourself well. Respect is not granted because you are talented. Respect is granted when people sense consequences. Not loud consequences, energetic ones. When they feel, if I cross this line, access changes. Most men tolerate too much. They laugh off disrespect. They accept half effort. They rationalize manipulation. They stay where they are undervalued. And every tolerance lowers perceived value. Boundaries are not spoken loudly. They are enforced quietly. The moment someone violates your standard, your energy shifts. Access tightens. Availability reduces. Warmth cools. No drama. No speech. Adjustment. The man who explains his boundaries is negotiating. The man who enforces them is establishing hierarchy. Detecting manipulation before it forms. Manipulation rarely begins aggressively. It begins subtly. Guilt. Testing. Small disrespect, disguised as humor. Emotional probing. Inconsistent energy. Sudden withdrawal to trigger chase. If you react emotionally, the pattern strengthens. If you observe calmly, it collapses. The key is this. Never reward behavior you do not want repeated. If someone withdraws to trigger pursuit, do not chase. If someone disrespects lightly to test tolerance, do not laugh along. If someone guilt trips, do not defend excessively. Respond proportionally, or not at all. Indifference is a scalpel. It cuts without noise. The man who cannot be baited cannot be conditioned. And most manipulation relies on conditioning. Trigger. Response. Repeat. Break the response. You break the loop. Weaponized indifference. Indifference is misunderstood. It is not apathy. It is selective investment. You care deeply about your mission, your standards, your code, but you are indifferent to noise. Criticism from the unqualified? Irrelevant. Temporary exclusion? Irrelevant. Opinions from those who lack discipline? Irrelevant. The man who tries to respond to every opinion becomes fragmented. The man who chooses what deserves energy becomes focused. Indifference signals self-sufficiency, and self-sufficiency is intimidating. Because people cannot leverage what you do not crave. Attention, approval, inclusion, validation. Remove the craving. Remove the leverage. The collapse of external validation. Here is a hard truth. If your confidence depends on results, you are fragile. If your confidence depends on admiration, you are unstable. If your confidence depends on comparison, you are weak. True sovereignty is built on internal standards. Did you execute your plan? Did you hold your discipline? Did you keep your word to yourself? That is it. The world can praise you or ignore you. Your standard remains. This is where Stoic philosophy intersects with strategy. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself daily as a reminder, "You control your mind, not events." That principle is not poetic. It is tactical. If external outcomes define you, you are hostage to variables. If internal conduct defines you, you are stable regardless of chaos. And stability is rare. Isolation without loneliness. As you rise internally, your circle will shrink. Not because you hate people, because fewer people align with discipline. When you stop gossiping, you lose gossip partners. When you stop chasing validation, you lose validation exchanges. When you stop reacting emotionally, you lose drama connections. At first, it feels isolating, but then something shifts. You realize peace is louder than noise. Solitude is sharper than chaos. Focus is addictive, and you no longer need constant stimulation to feel alive. You become comfortable in silence, and that comfort radiates. The integration of kindness and power. This is where most men misunderstand dominance. Dominance does not require cruelty. It requires control. You can be respectful, polite, generous, because you are not giving from insecurity. You are giving from abundance. There is a difference. The weak man is kind to be liked. The strong man is kind because he chooses to be. Choice changes energy. People feel it. When kindness is optional, it becomes powerful. When kindness is desperate, it becomes invisible. This is the fusion. Machiavellian awareness, Stoic discipline, psychological clarity, wrapped in calm presence. You look composed, but inside, you are fortified. The final realization: no one is coming to stabilize you. No one is coming to regulate your emotions. No one is coming to protect your boundaries. That responsibility is yours. And once you accept that fully, you stop blaming. You stop reacting. You stop seeking rescue. You start building. Building discipline. Building patience. Building strategic thinking. Building emotional endurance. Until one day, you notice something strange. Things that used to trigger you don't. Situations that used to intimidate you don't. People who used to control your mood can't. That is the moment you know you are no longer manageable. The oath of the controlled man. From this point forward, you do not react instantly. You do not argue emotionally. You do not chase validation. You do not fear walking away. You do not reveal your entire strategy. You do not tolerate quiet disrespect. You do not move without intention. You observe. You decide. You execute. Calmly. Because the most dangerous man in any room is not the loudest, not the strongest, not the most aggressive. It is the man whose internal world cannot be invaded. The man who cannot be rushed, cannot be baited, cannot be guilted, cannot be destabilized. The man who smiles and sees everything. Final act, the ascension of the untouchable man. There comes a moment in a man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable. No one was coming to save him. Not his friends. Not his mentors. Not the system. Not the world. And once that illusion dies, a new version of him is born. Most men spend their lives trying to be understood. The rare man decides to become undeniable. There is a difference. The first seeks permission. The second builds presence. And presence cannot be negotiated. The energy shift that changes everything. You don't need louder words. You need heavier silence. You don't need sharper insults. You need steadier eye contact. You don't need more validation. You need less dependence. When you walk into a room now, you are not scanning for approval. You are scanning for information. Who is insecure? Who talks too much? Who seeks dominance? Who collapses under pressure? Who adjusts when you speak? Who avoids your gaze? You are no longer participating unconsciously. You are observing strategically. This alone separates you from 90% of men. Because most men enter rooms hoping to be liked. You enter rooms ready to read. And the man who reads the room controls the room. The silent power moves. There are moves you make now that no one notices consciously, but everyone feels. You do not rush responses. You let silence stretch just long enough to create weight. You don't laugh instantly. You choose when to give emotional energy. You don't fill empty space with nervous speech. You let others reveal themselves. You don't overcommit. You say less than you know. You never reveal your full plan. You remain slightly unpredictable, not chaotic, measured. This creates psychological gravity. People begin to adjust around you. They explain more. They justify more. They seek reassurance. They test less, because they cannot map you easily. And when someone cannot map you, they treat you carefully. When tested, and you will be tested, subtle disrespect, playful insults, status challenges, emotional bait, withdrawal tactics. Old, you would have reacted, explained, defended, escalated, chased. New, you does something colder. You assess. If it's irrelevant, you ignore. If it crosses a line, you reduce access. If it's strategic, you respond calmly, briefly, decisively. No emotional leakage. No overcorrection. No ego duel. Because ego duels are for insecure men fighting for imaginary crowns. You are building empires internally first. And empires are not shaken by street arguments. The cost of becoming untouchable. Let's be honest. There is a cost. You will lose some people. The ones who thrived on your emotional reactions. The ones who relied on your need for approval. The ones who felt powerful when you were unstable. When you stop reacting, they feel powerless. And powerless people often become distant. Let them. Transformation always feels like loss before it feels like elevation. The weak version of you had more company. The controlled version has more clarity. Choose clarity. Ruthless self-honesty. Now we go darker. You are not just mastering your reactions. You are confronting your illusions. Where have you been weak? Where have you tolerated less than your standard? Where have you chased validation disguised as connection? Where have you stayed small to avoid threatening others? Where have you reacted because your ego needed protection? This is not self-hate. This is surgical awareness. The man who cannot criticize himself honestly will always defend himself emotionally. An emotional defense is fragile. You do not flinch from your flaws. You dissect them, calmly, without drama, without shame. Weakness acknowledged becomes strategy. Weakness denied becomes sabotage. The inner citadel. Imagine your mind as a fortress. Most men leave the gates open. Every opinion enters. Every insult lands. Every comparison penetrates. Every rejection wounds. You close the gates, not to shut out reality, but to filter it. Criticism? If useful, keep it. If useless, discard it. Praise? If earned, accept it. If manipulative, observe it. Temptation? If aligned with mission, consider it. If distracting, eliminate it. You are no longer porous. You are selective. And selectivity creates strength. The masculine edge. Here's the truth most modern men avoid. Softness without backbone invites domination. Kindness without boundaries invites exploitation. Emotion without discipline invites chaos. You can be compassionate, but you must be capable of hardness. You can be calm, but you must be capable of force. You don't display it recklessly, but it exists. Controlled, integrated. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote about becoming who you are, not who society trained you to be. Becoming who you are is not gentle. It is a shedding of conditioning, of fear, of dependency, of approval addiction. And what remains is sharper, quieter, stronger. The final integration. You now combine three forces: the awareness of manipulation, the discipline of the warrior, the calculation of the strategist. You look kind, but you are not naive. You are calm, but you are not passive. You are warm, but you are not accessible to everyone. You smile, but you see everything. This duality makes you dangerous, because people sense depth, and depth unsettles the shallow. When you reach this point, something subtle changes. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself. You no longer crave applause. You no longer fear exclusion. You no longer rush decisions. You no longer argue with fools. You no longer panic under pressure. Your nervous system stabilizes. Your voice slows. Your movements become intentional. Your words carry more weight because there are fewer of them. You become composed in chaos. And composure is rare. Rare equals valuable. Valuable equals powerful. The initiation. This is where most men stop listening, because this part demands responsibility. From this moment forward, no more blaming upbringing. No more blaming society. No more blaming betrayal. No more blaming rejection. No more blaming circumstances. You either control your internal world, or you remain controlled by the external one. There is no middle ground. You can be emotional and reactive, or you can be disciplined and sovereign. You cannot be both. The world does not need more loud men. It needs more unshakable ones. Men whose presence lowers chaos. Men whose silence creates tension. Men whose boundaries are respected without explanation. Men who can walk away without collapsing. Men who can lead without screaming. Men who can endure without complaining. That man is built, not born. And the build is daily. The final words. One day someone will try to provoke you, and you will feel nothing. One day someone will withdraw to trigger you, and you will remain steady. One day someone will insult you, and you will choose whether it deserves oxygen. One day, someone will attempt to control you emotionally, and they will realize there is nothing to grab onto. That is when you know you have become internally sovereign, and internally sovereign men are rare. Rare men shape environments. They are not shaped by them. They do not beg for respect. They command it through stability. They do not chase power. They embody it. You wanted to become more dangerous. This is how. Not louder, not angrier, not crueler, calmer, sharper, unmoved. Because the most dangerous man in any room is the one who has mastered himself, and that man cannot be controlled.